I'll do like a little intro and then like we'll just keep talking how we got talking. What's going on, guys? The Live Rose. I'm here with Tomu DJ. Should I say the whole name, Tomu DJ, or do you usually go with Tomu?
Either way.
Yeah? I like Tomu for sure. We are currently eating at Teriyaki House. Tomu has a flight, well, not a flight, a bus to catch. So we're grabbing some food, but it's ever so kind to allow me to talk. So thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the food.
Of course. So, where you from? Opening the question, but like, where you from?
I'm from California, like the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. And from the Bay Area, I know you had mentioned earlier, Berkeley area, you guys kind of reside in.
Yeah, we live in Oakland at the moment.
Oakland, okay, right now, yep. Does that scene, or that environment, I'll say,
Two different connotations.
you know what I mean? Depending for sure, you know? I'll say scene sometimes, and some people will be like, scene, you know? So, how has that played a role in like this, you know, your music adventure, I call it, music journey? I know it's a heavy question, but you know.
I guess like after I lived in New York, you know, I just wanted to go home. And like I did, and the new album that I released recently called Half Moon Bay is actually like basically like all except one of them are songs I made in New York. But the process of curating and selecting the album was like, you know, I just listen to my own music a lot, and I kind of make it mostly to that end. And it's kind of like, I guess, like which were the ones that, you know, I was still listening to, even, you know, like a year after I made it, like which are the ones that stood sort of like the test of time, or like were the ones that I actually liked. And I think it ended up being like, you know, a lot of songs that feel like, you know, they have a sense of home to me, I guess. Yeah. So that's how it's had an influence on my music more recently, as far as like the music that I've put out. Yeah.
It's tight. And since we're on the topic of, you know, influence and everything like that, how does that, you know, contrast to like music you kind of listened to when you grew up, whether in the house or just by way of walking home from school, hearing it in people's houses? Like,
I feel like the alternative rock radio station, like recently I went back home, and the alternative rock station that I listened to like all throughout my childhood and adolescence and even young adulthood was gone. And I've realized more and more that like I feel like people who are like sort of in the younger generation right now like don't really listen to stuff like that as much as like basically everybody I knew growing up did. But I mean, I guess it was that, and like, you know, the like, for lack of a better word, like the urban station, like not like the pure hip hop one, but like the R&B hip hop station.
Like a mix.
Was a big one, and also like that. Classic rock radio too, like there's stuff like Tom Petty and like Pink Floyd. Like
every city
like
has
that.
one of those stations for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and
my parents like don't listen to that much. You know, like a very diverse range of music, and my mom doesn't listen to music that much anyways, but like my dad like only listens to classical music. And
only, strictly.
Yeah, it's like he was telling me about like, you know, when I'm like feeling good, I'll put on like, you know, a happy classical song, but when he's like feeling bad, he'll put on that song that's like dun 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 dun. So it's like it really just covers like the whole range that he needs, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess like I don't know, I feel like the music that I make sounds kind of like classical, like besides the fact that it's made with like obvious computer stuff, but just sort of like the melodies that like I took in school like a year 1 music theory class, and it was like taught by this it's like older lady who like taught us like how they wrote like shit in like the 1400s, like the rules that you would follow to like what note to do next. Like there's this thing where it's like called like counterpoint, I think, where it's like you write a really simple melody that follows like certain rules, and then you have to write one on top of it that, you know, has to follow those rules, but also the rules for like being on top of another one. So it's like I feel like that stuff sort of got like ingrained into my head a little bit, as well as like playing piano when I was a kid. So I feel like that's where the sort of like the sort of like cheesy kind of like cadence kind of melodies that I use, like I feel like come from that.
And it's interesting you kind of bring it up a little bit too about, you know, your sound or like your music, but when I listen, it sounds, not to sound cheesy or whatever, but it sounds like genreless. Like I can't pinpoint, you know what I mean? I can't pinpoint. Like, and I don't love doing that either, unless I'm recommending somebody like, listen to this because it sounds like, you know.
I just tell people electronic.
Yeah, electronic, you know. But like, what do you in particular, you know, categorize, or like, I know you said electronic, but what do you, you know, find influences in different genres, or do you want your music to be in a genre, or do you prefer it to people to just kind of figure it out themselves? And
a lot of the thing is like, you know, this gentleman bought me Ableton like a couple years ago, and just like having that software and like being able to do so much stuff within it, with like other plugins, it makes it really easy for me to not really easy, but like compared to like, you know, making other kinds of music, it's like easy for me to make electronic music that's like, you know, quantized to the beat, like, you know, just tinkering around with it on my computer. But I make a lot of other music too. It's just like that stuff is like really expensive to record and like, you know, get mastered, and like just like, you know, you have to find people to play with and like all that stuff. But
we make live music together.
Yeah. Oh, you do?
I play drums.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That was more, by the way.
Yeah.
People listening. That's amazing.
Yeah.
it's like my vision with the music that I have right now. It's like, I know it's like very simple sounding music that's like, you know, made using like, you know, synth preset plugins and like all this stuff and whatever, but like part of the point is like, you know, just like I think that it's very much easier to make music than a lot of people think if you really just go for it. And like, I don't know, it's like I feel like my music is viewed in like like one of two ways most of the time. It's like a lot of people are like, wow, this is like, you know, like otherworldly, it's like transcendent. And then other people are just like, man, like what the fuck is this? Like this is just some like simple ass melodies with like really basic drums and like stuff like that. And it's like to those latter group of people, I'm like, yeah, it is. And like, you know, you can make good music doing that. Like it's like people being like, oh, you just used guitar, like you just used a fucking guitar, like that's like cheating. And it's like, well, like you pick one up then, like, you know,
exactly.
It's like,
literally,
it's like, you know, using instruments that, because like for me, I have a hard time like writing music and performing it. It's more so like when I'm you know, sitting down to make it, whether it's like, you know, on my laptop or in a studio. It's like it's like I guess like the a kind of like flowery way to describe it would be like I kind of just you know wait for the magic to start flowing from my fingertips or whatever, you know, like
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's the thing for sure. And you mentioned it, like you kind of put it best. Some people think the music is like just otherworldly and just a different feeling than they get from other artists or just music in general. And like you said, some people think it could be simple, but I think there's a beauty in that. Like you said, like it's a beauty in hearing something that sounds, like you said, may have been made from, but in this case, Ableton. But when I listen to a song like Graba, right?
yeah.
Like I listen to that and I'm like, yo, this shit feels like I'm on shrooms or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it feels,
you know, that
it feels
synth, it's
amazing.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like, that
exactly.
was like
That's amazing.
we had the Ableton push and like opened up, you know, this synth we have like ARP 2600 or whatever, and just like hit like 4 random buttons and started doing that arpeggiator, moved it down a little bit, and then does the other one like, and it's like, you know, like that was just the song right there. Like all we had to do was add drums over it, and you know, it's like a lot of the times I will, you know, edit the sounds. Like I don't strictly use presets, but it's just like, you know, when I feel that moment of inspiration, which like just for me and the way I produce can happen like pretty easily a lot of the time. It's like I don't want to lose that thing I'm holding on to. It's like I can't count like the number of songs that I have improvised that are literally better than every song that I've released, and I just don't have them anymore because I was just, you know, either jamming on like an acoustic guitar or like, you know, a piano, and like my memory is really awful. So like I never, and even when I try to go reach for the voice memos on my phone, and I try to play that shit again, it's like never as good.
In the abyss.
You know, and yeah, like when I'm in the studio, it's like, I will often just like every input, I will just leave it recording, and it creates these like giant blank cluttering files on my computer, but it's worth it to me just so I don't miss anything that's going on.
100%.
Yeah, and like, you know, sometimes like what will be a complete track is just like a live excerpt, like cut from, you know, a studio session, or it's like, you know, sometimes I'll go and finish it later, but it's like sometimes I already really like the way it sounds, just the way it came out.
Definitely. Now, I have to ask this, but have there been any, like, what you deem challenges that you kind of come across within, I hate saying industry, but like within your journey? I call it, say your journey, you know, whether it be personal or whether it just be strictly music.
Yeah, definitely a lot of both. I don't know, like, what I am and am not allowed to talk about, because, you know, but, like, at the end of the day, I think, like, it's like in music, I feel like, I don't know, ever since I started getting articles and, like, websites or whatever, people, like, you know, often, like, friends in real life or, like, people who I know through music would say to me, like, wow, you're, like, really, you know, like, you're really blowing up, like, you're really successful or whatever. And it's like, that is, like, I feel like that facade is, like, the facade that you need to build in order to have that be a reality, but it almost feels sometimes like you need to build the facade first, which is like part of the reason I like try to get all these press reviews and, you know, features and whatever, is because it's like I don't think I'm making the best music that I could be making yet, but the more connections I make to people who can make it worth it for me to spend $500 on studio time to record something that I really believe in and want to record, because I know I'll be able to make that back somehow.
Yeah.
And the process of not wasting my creative potential making strictly music with presets and et cetera, I'm trying to like set it up in just a way that I can just make music at a sort of deeper and just more professional level over the course of time.
Absolutely.
And like when people ask me like how I made, you know, my music, I often tell them like I just try to make like the most generic music possible, but like, you know, everyone is their own person, so that's always going to come out different. And it's like, you know, as much as I wish I could produce like, you know, the kind of EDM stuff that's popular, it's like, you know, like, you know, Diplo, Jack U, Skrillex, or whatever, like stuff like that. It's like I don't dislike that
Chainsmokers
stuff.
and all that.
Yeah, it's like I don't dislike that stuff, and it's like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, you know, like people like Avicii or whatever are like dumb or whatever, and it's like no, they're like
geniuses.
The only reason that stuff is
you know what I mean?
considered corny to you is because those people like made that, you know. And it's like I am really not like I don't know. I feel like I often get sort of labeled or grouped in with like techno artists or like artists of some particular genre, and I just don't really see myself that way because I don't know. It's like I'm the music that I make is just sort of like, it's like when I think of a concept to a song and get it down, whether it's like a basic skeleton or whatever, then that's like a problem that has to be solved. And that's like another good thing about the presets is like I can adjust the frequencies and stuff, but the MIDI's still staying there. And I know you can do this with like connecting hardware synths and stuff too, but like it's easy just to be able to do it on my laptop, like without even, you know, but yeah, it's like the challenge, I guess, is the combination of like creating this facade and you know, creating the most deepest and truest work to your heart, and balancing those, and they definitely get in the way of each other. So I would say that is like a major challenge when trying to do music at like a level where it's like, you know, sustainable and professional. And the reason that I want to do that is because I have a lot of friends, you know, for example, my friend who is in law school and makes really amazing music and doesn't have the time to be like, you know, looking for articles or talking to like, you know, connections, you know, publishing, distributor people. So it's like when I make those connections just by throwing a couple of presets together, then I'm able to help out my friends who, you know, don't have backgrounds as like, you know, DJs or whatever, like get their music heard more. And like that is like one of the main reasons that I seek a platform in that way. But yeah, it's definitely it definitely has its challenges, you know. Definitely just being somebody who like looks the way I look and sounds the way I sound, that like definitely creates some challenges along the way, but I don't need to get into that. Overall, like I love doing music as a job. It kind of like, you know, it stresses me out honestly, like more or as much as any of the other jobs I've had, but you know, those are only moments, and there are like, you know, like the most fun moments I've had doing music are more fun than the most fun ones I've had, you know, making coffee or, you know.
No, seriously, I'll tell you right now, that was one of the most authentic, beautiful, genuine answers I've ever gotten from any guest ever.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, raw and like true, you know, like I can see myself in that predicament too if I was there as well, you know, like all those kind of challenges. Are there any like people in life or within the industry or that kind of help you in a way, like that motivates you or inspires you, or mentors or anything like that? Oh, good. And no, let me know how time is and everything like that.
I've been
Okay,
so
yeah, we can leave at like 45.
Yeah.
Like we'll definitely make the bus. Yeah, like if we call the Uber at 45, it'll come 5 minutes after, and then we'll be there 5 minutes after that. Definitely the label I put out my last album through, Franchise, the guy in charge of that, Justin, he's like Franchise is like a pretty new label that he's starting, but he's had like a brand that does like apparel and magazines and sports related stuff, which I'm not an expert on, but
and do you reach out, or is that somebody that do you have like a
he reached out to me.
Very
and
nice.
Like, to be honest, I have a lot of trouble with like the networking thing, so I feel like that's why during the pandemic it's like I made these connections, like, you know, my agent who's in the UK, who is the reason I was able to tour in Europe. And, you know, just to my label head, like they heard my music through like pretty organic means when like, you know, people were just online searching for content. And, you know, that has definitely translated into like more opportunities to share my work post. I mean, I'm not going to say post-pandemic because apparently people get mad at that, but in the reopened era.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Probably that's more consumable for everybody. Since we're eating some good food right now, some solid food. Back home, what kind of food do you kind of indulge in, or do you like restaurant-wise, or just food period?
Lately, we've been doing a lot of Ethiopian.
Ethiopian is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems so like active, like, you know what I mean? It's an active cuisine to eat. You know, it's really like one with the food kind of sound, you know. But
and like my favorite cuisines are ones that just center. Like my favorite cuisines that have meat are the ones that also center vegetables and not as like a vegetarian thing. Like I try to eat things with like vegetables and meat, or like, you know, a lot of vegetables. I guess like the week before we came here, we were going to that Ethiopian spot a lot.
Yeah, we were just going there a lot. It was good.
Yeah, and what else do we go out to eat? I feel like we cook mostly.
And yeah, we also cook a lot.
what do you guys cook? What do you guys like to cook?
A variety of dishes, I feel like.
I make way too many noodles.
A lot of noodles for sure, like pasta or just like chow mein, garlic noodles.
Ramen, udon, soba, all of that shit.
Yeah, literally basically any kind, and then like sometimes even lasagna.
We like to do roasted vegetables a lot.
I love roasted
And
vegetables.
I got into Thai cooking a lot earlier this year.
That's tight.
We recently got a Vitamix.
Oh, very
finally.
crucial.
Yeah, so
Crucial. Yeah.
it's been really fun making smoothies every day and just like trying out all these different like flavors and all these different combinations. It's like a game.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the cuisines I'm best at cooking are probably Mexican
Definitely.
and like Chinese.
Yeah, I would say those two are the best.
Like I learned how to make those spicy cumin lamb noodles.
Yeah.
You ever had those?
No, I never had it, but that sounds fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
That
it is
sounds
phenomenal.
flavorful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know? Now, I asked like 2 more questions before we get out of here. I know we're kind
No
of out of time. So, when it comes to putting out projects, it's like a 2-in-1 question.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you take the reception of your albums or
Personally?
projects personally?
Yes.
That's one question. And then 2, like, is there a process in which you go about like putting your forthcoming or any album out? You know, like, do you have like an intent?
Yeah, that's one of my challenges right now, is because like I'm very happy with how my new album is doing, but all those tracks have been finished for like, you know, except for one of them like a year or more, you know, or like maybe I've adjusted it a little bit, but it's like I have so much new music and most of it is like, you know, not ready to be released. Like most of it is like, you know, somewhat good ideas that have not come to fruition. Yeah, I'm trying not to, you know, oversaturate, but you know, it's like normally I'd have more to say about my future releases, but right now it's kind of up in the air. I know there's a Oakland label called No Bias, run by my friend Tal, and we were gonna do a tape together. But honestly, I think I might ask him to do a CD because I don't have a tape player, to be honest.
It's a cool idea. It's a cool concept. It's
If I had one,
product-wise.
you know, I guess I
Hopefully he's not listening to this.
But I,
You know.
yeah.
Just kind of round it out now. You know, last question I'd say.
Oh yeah, as far as like taking it personally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, it is really like. So like the reason I stopped doing social media for a long time, and like I am about to stop because my plan was to stop after Boiler Room, which
Really?
is over. Yeah, because I have a new manager now, or a new social media manager, because the person who was doing it for me before, we don't work together anymore. And I had to promote my album, so that
Absolutely.
means I had to go on. And it's like, you know, as much as I don't like that, it's whatever. But like, just I don't know, being vulnerable and like presenting yourself to like a crowd that is, you know, rife with racists and homophobic people and all kinds of nefarious people, nefarious trolls. Like, it's definitely a lot, and like that is like part of the reason I'm very intentional about using my likeness as well, and especially for posts online where it's like there's just this huge pressure to just like be, you know, attractive and like, you know, all that shit that like, you know, I could go on about that for a whole separate interview, but I am very intentional about every aspect, every word, every, you know, image, every sound that I share with the world at large. You know, it's like, you know, honestly, Nevermind by Drake got like a 50 on Metacritic, and that was like one of my favorite records. So it's like that's like one of the things that you know, reminds me. It's like you don't have to listen to these people, and if you're doing something that, you know, it's not even necessarily innovative, but like if you're doing something that feels fresh to you and like that is making you happy with the music that you're making, that is like honestly, you know, more monumental than being able to impress other people.
Yeah. No, that's tight. That's I agree with that as well.
But sometimes I'm just like, I read a comment, I'm just like, you are dickish. Like, like sometimes, like on my first album, people will be like, I'm disappointed in this release, and I'm like, what was the precedent? Like, like it's not as if you knew who I was, so how could you be disappointed?
No, seriously. And that's what I'm thinking too. When I'm not an artist, but I think empathetically in a way that I put myself in people's shoes as well too. And I'm like, when I see somebody kind of give a very rigid or like outlandish kind of take on something, like you said, like what is the purpose? What does it serve? You know? So it runs my mind.
But you know, I'm not immune to giving my opinions on things either.
No, we're humans. You know, we're humans.
It's like I had a moment where I was just like, I actually do feel bad for Chance the Rapper.
Ooh,
everyone hated on him so hard.
Yeah, definitely with that album. Yep, absolutely.
And it's like,
he was the product. He was the golden child. He was, you know.
Yeah, and then it's like me even experiencing something like that on like a micro level. It's like
Yeah.
I act like there's so many people talking shit on my music, but there's really not. It's just like because I take it so personally that the like 3 or 4.
Yeah, one comment
like
could be negative out of like 50.
And then I'm just like, damn, I should delete this.
Yeah.
But like,
and now, do you feel a withdrawal from that now? Like now, do you have, you know, I know you said you're going to a social media manager now or a different one. Do you feel like
I want to focus
connected?
more on just, you know, bettering my music and bettering myself, and just all that stuff is really like really not conducive to that. Like I'm trying to work on, you know, rejecting more offers and just you know, getting myself to where I want to be and not just sort of grasping at straws, like kind of laying out a plan to figure out how I can make this music stuff work.
No, of course. It's a beautiful journey, you know. The last question I'll say is, you know, the inevitable question that most people probably ask: what's next? Within the next year, 5 years, I don't know, whatever you deem next is.
As far as things I can talk about, I'm not sure, but definitely a lot more music. I have a. So I really like don't consider myself or anything I've released to be really techno, but I do have a techno release in the works.
Of course, very nice.
That is going to be out soon, and I'm excited for that.
Very nice.
I think I have an interesting take on it, and yeah, you know, I'm not going to be dormant or anything, but just trying to, you know, take it easy on the administrative side of things. Get like more in touch with my creativity and like work on something that is like, you know, not the techno thing, but like work on something that is like, you know, in line with my, you know, other releases, but like in a different way, like a new take on it. And I'm definitely along the way in the brainstorming process. but nothing to share yet.
Yeah, no,
But
definitely.
yeah, definitely gonna be some new music soon.
Nice. One last bonus question, real fast. What does Tomu do in her spare time? Not music-wise. Just chilling, relaxing.
Yeah,
At home.
you know, cooking.
Play video games.
Yeah, I play video games. You know, I sometimes watch TV. I had a job that was like taking up a lot of time, but like I quit it before this trip. So
Yeah.
like that's why I hesitated. I'm like, what did I do?
So you were
Oh,
working
yeah, I went
while as an artist as well.
Yeah, right now, I have 2 jobs that are part-time, but I can basically set my own hours at them,
Phenomenal.
which is good. And like I do make like you know, some money off of music, so it's sort of like when that's slow, I can pick up more shifts and such. But yeah, I had a job with like a consistent schedule for a few months, and it definitely stopped me from working on music as much as I would like to. But you know, it was definitely worth it to make the money and whatever.
Definitely.
But I'm ready to just kind of like, you know, I feel like every few months I'll just be like, all right, so new job or look for a better job, or, you know, keep
More money.
doing music more and more
Yeah.
and more, and you know, just figuring it out.
It's a grind,
step
it's a
by
journey.
step. Yeah.
Tomu, thank you. Nor, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Absolutely.
This was fun.